Go down. Is it Atkin? Is it Atkin? Yatkin? There's a Yatkin gate. So if you go way down there, that's where we're staying. Yeah, we're staying way down there. Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice. Okay. We'll get started. Hey, thanks for the questions. We have a team of people to help. So I have my answers aren't always answers you need to hear. So that's why just any of us will be glad to help you with whatever questions that you have. So it's good for me to hear questions, and I'm aware that my answers may not be complete. So if they're not, just come back and like, hey, Rob, you didn't answer the question or however. And Michael came in, so that's really good. So we're here to process with you. So we're talking about a movement, and we talk about knowing yourself, which is self-awareness. We talk about reconnaissance, which is knowing others. And I used to be in a scout unit. We used to do recon, right? Fly border of Syria, Turkey, come back. That's what we did, right? And so our recon is really, we want you to study other people, learn about them so that you can connect with them. So I want to do this. I want you to take out a piece of paper from your notebook. I just want you to take one piece of paper, and I want you to just tear it in half for me, like this. And I'm going to ask you 4 questions, okay? These questions aren't necessarily questions that started with CORE 3 years ago. These are questions that I've just sort of developed through the years before I became a chaplain, because I dealt with money, health, relationships, and they've just been very effective for me. I just, really call this like a Polaroid picture. This is just a snapshot of where you are today. And if I ask you the set of questions tomorrow, I think it'd be different. So I did this with my religious affairs specialist, and I did it every month. Like, hey, where are you today? This is where I am. Let's talk. And I trained with these questions with my soldiers, and we incorporate this in CORE. So what you're going to do, I'm going to ask you 4 questions on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is horrible, bad. 10 is really good. And I just want you to write down 4. I don't want any names. What we're going to do with it, so you'll know. When you get done, I just want you to fold it in half like this. And we're going to turn them in. I'm going to read everybody's numbers. No names. I don't want anybody's names. Okay? And I just want you to answer the question as honestly as you can. And then we're going to talk about it. And the reason why these questions are important, because I think these questions have to do with green environment, yellow environment, red environment. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how's your money? Now, based on sequence, some of you might, it's good because I got good retirement, I got good savings, I got this much money in my bank account. Others of you don't have any of that, and your money's like, hey, I got enough money to take care of my family, so we're good. I don't care how you come up with your 10. I just want to know, how do you think and feel about your money right now? So at the Polaroid shot on the questions of 1 to 10, you can have mine. Just tear it in half like that. Don't put your name on it. I don't want to know your name, but we're going to take them up, and I'm going to read out everybody's numbers. Okay, so on a scale of, and you guys can participate in the back if you want to. I'll give you some paper. All right, scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, how's your money? Question number 2. 0 to 10, how's your health? I'm not talking about your PT score. I get that. That's important. I was in Korea, right? My chiropractor told me, hey, you're stressed out. He could feel that from me. Right? It could be emotional health, it could be mental health. I'm just talking about health in general. Like, where are you? Like, how you doing? And I know some of these are open-ended questions, and it's hard to figure out which compartment. I'm just trying to come up with a number for you. It could be cumulative. It could be a composite. Question number 3, how are your relationships at work? So if I'd asked JD a while ago, if I'd asked that question when he talked about that other guy he worked for, his number may be different than today. So I'm just asking, hey, how are you connecting at work? How are your relationships at work? 0 to 10. 0 is not good. 10's great. Love my job. Enjoy it. I got predictability. I'm good. Somebody like, hey, I can be myself. I have fun, and that's your 10. And number 4, how are your relationships at home? That could be one person. Some of you may just answer that from one person perspective. I'm good with that because that's what causes you the most problems. Or you may answer it in a composite way. I'm not trying to tell you how to answer the question. So then I want you to add up your number. So add up the 4 numbers, right? And then I want you to add them up, circle it for me, and then just fold it in half. And is this a bag? And the guys will pick up the cards for me, right? All right. Hey, fold that though. There you go. So we don't fold it the same way. Yeah. Okay. Y'all unfold those and y'all can unfold them. So I think if you're an NCO, you're a junior leader, squad leader, man, these are 4 questions that you guys should be asking all the time. Because when it comes to suicide has to do with money and relationships. We already know health's out. So I believe it's holistic here. Whatever the issues are, it's holistic. Sometimes as certain professions or leaders, we only focus on one of these areas. I'm saying, hey, you need to look at all of it because they're all connected at the same time. All right, 33, 24, 33, 32, 28, 29, 27, 27, 33, 30, 31. So what do you think? Do what? People are in a pretty good place. Okay. Anybody else? Have any thoughts about that?
If you did it by almost like a testing rating out of 40, the highest it would be
40. I mean, so I put 10 on all of them.
right, just out of 40 possible points.
Correct. Correct.
The highest would be several B's and
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I guess it's all about how you value each of these. Like that was tied to the numerical value of the other.
Hold on. I'm going to throw this to you so we can all hear.
So much of it depends on our interpretation of the question
Yes.
and what it is that I want to answer and
Yeah.
how defensive I'm feeling at the moment.
Okay.
How is your money? I don't know, anemic, or it could be growing, or I interpreted so much of this as growing.
Okay.
And, okay, I haven't been able to spend as much energy in this area, so this is suffering a little bit, but this is growing on this side, so not perfect, but growing.
Yeah, I'm just asking how you feel about it, what you think about those areas. I think those areas matter. What if you had 11, 8, or 4? What would you think? I think we had 11 last week, 2 weeks ago when we were here. I've had somebody say, hey, Rob, I could be 10, 10, 10, and 0.
I think also it's not only what your score is or even how you're interpreting it, but with, like the last module, the direction that we're going. So if we put a 9 or we put an 8, but maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, it would have been a 10. So like, oh, that's a pretty good score. But again, the direction, or if we put a 4, we could automatically assume that that's a pretty low score for one of the categories, but a couple weeks ago, it could have been a 0.
Yeah.
And so, again, movement is important with an important variable with these answers.
Yeah, so this is just a Polaroid snapshot of where you are right now, right? You could go home and your dad could end up dying today, and you go home tonight, and those numbers, like maybe have changed. Some aspect of the relationship's over. Just trying to get you to consider all these areas are all connected. We're only trying to ask questions, right? So let me just add something. What if this is a CER0 who is not good in relationships? That's why I ask. Yeah, so we look at the 30 like, hey, we're pretty good, unless you put a sequence with it, and then you end up having an area that they really are really important to them, and they're 0. Is that a game changer? It's a game changer. So important variable is in this is what sequence put that. And none of us know. So that'd be a bad day for you, right?
Yeah, it'd be a very bad thing, right? If you back in relationship stuff for me, I just scored straight 0. Money didn't matter, health didn't matter, I had no relationship, who cares about it?
Okay. Look at the sequence. I mean, so this, don't get lost. All of us some of us like math. So I have if he's with Will's relationships at 5 at work and 0 at home, he's 25. Well, that's 25 out of 40. That's not bad, but what area is just he's hammered in? Is he green, yellow, or red?
Me, on the other hand, I got friends.
No.
You don't need that.
So I'm just trying to get you to think, right? I don't know what you guys use now with your soldiers to write gauge, and I'm just trying to say this may be 4 questions, and then begin to do some reps and look at sequences and begin to see how sequence answers. And this has helped me ask really good questions. It's cut time. So I'm going to end with this on movement. Call it the stress cycle. Really quickly. As a chaplain coming back from Iraq, my commander at the time asked me if I would do some modules or do some training, reintegration training before we left. And I said, sir, I already have an idea of what I want to do. I want to teach 3 lessons in small groups. 1-9 Cav, I think I had a little over 550, maybe at 550. And I said, I want to do small groups. I want to teach my 3 lessons. It's going to take me about 50 times to teach each lesson. I don't believe in like large training. I think it's a waste of time. I don't know how effective it really is long term. And I want to break our organization down hierarchically. And you're one of my small groups. I want to meet with a big 5 3 times. You can give me like 3 50-minute sessions. I want to just talk to the big 5 about my 3 areas. So I broke every battalion and company down based on peers, where they could end up talking. I created a living room scene. My units were scattered, but I ended up, he said, you really can do that? I said, I'll create a spreadsheet. What's my first letter? I'll keep up with who's in there, and we'll make this happen. And we did that. We taught it 52 times, 3 modules. That's 156 small groups. And I'm not saying, look at me. I'm just trying to say, I believe in this one slide. This was one of my lessons. This one slide. And I say this, and this is where I am. Through the years of using this, it's been one of the most effective slides I've ever used. Call this a distress cycle, right? This happens, either in a second position or third position for people. And it all can happen to us, right? So we have an overload of dislikes that cause us to be unhappy, depressed, lonely, and angry, depending on our sequence. So we need to get away. We have a decision to make. And some of us pick up an unhealthy choice. And it gives us a short-term fun relief. Choice is over, depending on our sequence. Either we blame or we guilt, have self-blame. And then it starts over again. And I think in all of our lives at some point, some of us have been here and done that. At least I can say I have. Joe, I'm having technical difficulty. Here we go. There we go. So I just added the red. So I don't know what your overload of dislikes are, right? There's some people who stress eat. Excuse me, guys. There we go. That's where I want to be, Joe. Can you take it over for me? Okay. So we talk about an overload of dislikes. That dislike could be your spouse. Right? I mean, there are families who really don't like, family members who really don't like each other. Okay? That's a fact. And most of us are chaplains in the room. I've had 5 chaplain families in the last 2 months have said, I really don't like somebody in my family. Okay. So we all have an unhealthy choice. Eat, work, shopping, it's there twice, alcohol, video games. So some of our unhealthy choices are not illegal or immoral. But we all have an unhealthy choice that we pick up. Some of you pick up work. That's your unhealthy choice because you have so much conflict at home. Your identity's at work. You like to work. You're in control. You got it, and avoid it. Okay. So when I was a financial coach, I met a couple who had $250,000 worth of credit card debt. And most of you don't have the money to have that kind of line on your credit cards. So this is people who have money to be able to have that kind of line, right? You guys understand what I just said? I don't have $250,000 worth of line of credit on credit cards. So that popped up. And the lady was shopping. Anything wrong with shopping? No, we all buy things, right? I told this guy a while ago, man, there's no way you're not E first because look at the clothes you've been wearing the last 2 days, okay? He goes, you got me there, okay, right? Yeah, come up practical choices. So there's nothing wrong with shopping, buying that kind of shirt, no way, right? But she was shopping, compensate for, what do you think? Yeah, relationships broken. So what was she doing? Like self-medicating this broken relationship. I got a good chaplain friend of mine who really love and care about him, who's in rehab this week. I knew something was going on because he hadn't heard from him in the last couple of weeks. He's active duty chaplain. And I've met some soldiers who just play video games. They love it. They go home. They just play video games, and they ignore their families and relationships. Is that a problem? some soldiers who just like work out, like more than, nothing's wrong with working out twice a week or whatever, twice a day. But when it becomes what? Something you're trying to do to self-compensate something, or you're trying to avoid something, that unhealthy choice becomes its own cycle. And everybody has it. So I showed this slide 52 times. That's all I talked about. And I have a ton of stories to tell you about people who've picked up different things. And I tell the story, I have a commander in my HHC command who I was doing this slide with, and I was sort of going through it, and I was telling a couple of stories like I just did, and he's like, hey, chap, I need to tell you something. This is in front of this group. He's like, that's my dad. So as a good facilitator, I just what? You take over and teach the class. Tell us your story. He goes, that's my dad. He said, man, my mom and dad wasn't good. He goes, he just began to sit there and he just began to think. And he began to tell the story, but then he just sort of stopped talking and he began to cry. I think he was 2-1 in the end. My experience has been that sequence hardly ever cries in public. He was in a small group, people who were sergeant, right? Small. So he had a moment, he began to talk about him and his dad, and he began to talk about him. We walked away, we had a good session, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, because I'm talking about distress, right? It's important to know which environment that we're in, green, yellow, red. So I was trying to say, hey, you may be in a yellow environment now, but you may end up going back into a what? Red environment. If you are, guess what you could end up doing? You could end up picking an unhealthy choice up. So so we ended. I mean, that was a good session. Thanks, chap, whatever. And that commander got upset with me afterwards because he cried in front of the soldiers. Sort of goes back to your point. Like, I didn't make you cry. We had conflict because he had a vulnerable moment, and then he realized, I shouldn't be that. Is that a problem for him? Maybe. So we had a conflict. We hit it head on as a chaplain, as a HHC commander. And long story short is we worked through that. And he began to become really self-aware of what was going on with him. And when we got back to Fort Hood, we had a change of ceremony. And he just said, I thought this chaplain Cook or chap was this psychobabble guy, but he's helped me the most with my family. He said that in the change of ceremony. Right? But he had a moment where he's like, hey, that's my dad. And that's me. And his choice was being a workaholic. So I don't know what your choice is. Like, what is your unhealthy choice? Like, some of you may not be in a distress cycle right now. Some of you may be in one. And sometimes, and all you chaplains and NCOs who've been around a long time, sometimes you have soldiers who've been in more than one, right? They may be picking up something that's not illegal and immoral, but it's unhealthy. It's causing problems with them, with their work squad or their home squad. So I want you to take out another piece of paper. Now I want you to tear it in half, okay? Just like this. And I don't know what your unhealthy choice is, but we all have one, right, of some kind. So in the last 12 months, what would your unhealthy choice be that you have? It's your cycle. In the last 12 months, I don't want you to look. I don't want anybody looking on your piece of paper. I want you to write 1 or 2 words, right? And then I'm going to take them up and read them off. I don't want any names. Same thing. Somebody like, Rob, I don't have an unhealthy choice. Okay, you're good. Just put 0. Right? I'm good right now. Last 12 months, I've been good. Maybe anger. I want our junior leaders and soldiers to understand what their unhealthy choices are and help them with their soldiers, right? We all pick things up. Okay, here's our group. Alcohol and travel, in parentheses, avoid. Shut down, get away. Eat. Anger towards spouse. Work and alcohol. Hiding. Despair. Withdrawing. Withdrawing in anger. Disconnect from everyone and everything as much as possible. Drinking. Eat. Compensating for loneliness. Any thoughts?
It just shows that a brave face can hide a broken heart.
Do it.
A brave face can hide a broken heart. Like, when you look at some of the sequence, you see happiness, you see joy and everything. But when you read out some of those words, not everybody is in that place that they think or show that they're in.
What else?
I think that the tendency is for us to put down the most respectable answer, and so that the actual truth is still something that we're holding to ourselves.
Great comment. Anybody else?
Extend on Tim's comment. I think he's exactly right. I think there's a profile for chaplains to be strong and perfect, angelic type beings, or like Lucky Rabbit's feet, and then also everything's put together. And so there isn't always a feeling like there's a safe space to work out our issues. And so,
Good comment, yeah. We're hoping that we can do that for leadership. Somebody else?
I mean, as I listen to the words, me not being a chaplain, it shows that, we're a people as we're a people. We all have those flaws. Like, as he said, it's easy to go to work and paint a picture, because if you're operating in your official capacity, you feel like I must paint this picture. But in reality, you might be suffering deeper than that person you're trying to help. And as I listened to those words, it was just like, it put things in perspective for me.
Good. Somebody else?
So, the Army is, for a lot of people, is a long game. You're going to do this a long time. You're going to be pouring yourselves into lives of other people. And I think it's clear where I stand on this tool and how pro Core Recon I am as far as the validity of it works. And I think it's a great tool for the Army and for chaplains, religious affairs specialists, and squad leaders to have. But there's another asset that we all have available to us. And just as an old guy on my way out after 30 plus years, I just encourage you to find a brother or sister that you trust, that you can just let all your guards down. And you guys can walk this journey together for the next 20, 25, 30 years. And it will make a huge difference for you. And from a C perspective, it'll make an even bigger impact on that individual. It'll make a bigger difference for them. So choose wisely. Get one or two or three people that you trust, and just be you. Cool.
So I've dealt with leadership in the Army, sergeant majors, commanders, GO, senior leaders. Their lists are the same as ours. Done it with soldiers, their lists are the same. We just need to say, this is where I am today. That's what I really want you to do. This is where I am. And we all need to break the cycle. And that's really hard. All of you wrote down something that you feel like is unhealthy. And I really believe that you know whether you wrote the one that you really are or not. I think it's a great comment. We all need to break the cycle because it's destructive either to ourselves or to people around us. And if you don't get anything else out for the next 3 days, and I hope we do, because we prepared a lot for you. I hope that you can say, hey, I need to work on myself, and how do I end up working this out with somebody? Because I do believe that you're not destined to always be who you are. You're not destined to always make the same choices that you have a tendency or propensity to, or you just have picked up something that's creating more destructive problems for you, and I really want you to break the cycle. Break it. Usually you got to pick up something else in place of. I just want you to pick up something that's healthy for you, not something else that's unhealthy. And that can be a tendency to do that. So if the training ended right now, no more, what's something I got you thinking about today? This is where you teach the class. It's more important for you to do this than for me. We've covered a gamut of subjects. What got you thinking about?
I think one of the more beneficial things that we've gone over so far is kind of revealed in the pre-survey yesterday. It is a great way to get to know somebody quickly. I mean, obviously you're not knowing who they are as a person completely, right, but you get some really good indications. That's probably worth its weight in gold right there.
Cool. Good. Somebody else? You teach the class, whatever you're thinking about.
I think it's important to understand not only your likes and others and your dislike, but understanding others' likes and dislikes to build that strong connection in order to accomplish the mission. It's important.
It's a great way to open up my eyes to my own prejudices in the counseling room, just to see everybody has a lens, everybody has a worldview, and just seeing mine on paper and seeing it's pretty accurate. It's not static, it's somewhat fluid.
Yeah.
And just seeing my prejudices and my, what I tend to go toward and what I tend to look for, I think will make me a better counselor.
Anybody else?
Like Mike's comment earlier this morning, I got thinking about just evaluating my first two letters, C and O, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it makes sense. I'm in a caring profession, and that's what motivates me. But then I got thinking specifically about my counseling, and one of the number one ways that I counsel is by trying to help organize people's lives. So I'll have them list off everything, and while they're listing it off, I'm categorizing it. And then I'm telling them, okay, so these are all related to this, and these are all, and so it was a key indicator for me of this is how I actually get after my C. I use my O to help others, especially in the counseling setting.
Anybody else? Just self-reflection here. What are you thinking? I've learned to be quiet.
The module on the core balance was very insightful.
Say that again.
The module on the core balance was
Yes.
very insightful for
Yes.
me. To me, there's a lot of practical applications there. If you're making decisions more out of your head or your heart, and beginning to think about counseling in couples that I see, and where this becomes a big issue, and the time, the relationship, the money, the health, and those things, and how I think just being able to help them see how they make those decisions could be an aha moment for them, that they could then begin to, work to be more strategic, to do more or less, whichever one they need to do. And so I'm very much a rubber meets the road kind of guy, just practical applications. And so I can see many practical applications from just knowing their core balance and different directions to go from there.
As you continue to learn it, let me know. All right, we're learning. Anybody else? All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back. All right, 10 minutes, we'll come back.
My arms are tired and weary. These wounds are on full display. I've tried every door in the hallway. There's just nowhere that I feel safe. See the light but never find the surface. I don't know if I can swim no more. White knuckles and wild horses. One day we'll wash up on Mercy's shore. One day we'll wash up on Mercy's shore. I'm lost in the waves that crush me. They bring discovery where darkness hides. Just over the ridge in front of you, another mountain I will have to climb. We're a child in the car seat, in the driveway at night. Our mother's gonna slowly sneak our body inside. We can rest in the arms of trust. There's no way we can say we've earned our way to the light. All we have to do is stay. See the light but never find the surface. I don't know if I can swim no more. White knuckles and wild horses. One day we'll wash up on Mercy's shore. One day we'll wash up on Mercy's shore. I've been battling a broken heart. Everybody knows I'm torn apart. Since I was 8 years old, when I thought God was a girl in my school. If we can wind up on a sandy beach, breathing air that only death can reach, and singing songs that only heaven leads, it's okay with me. God is wanting us to make believe, but knowing something is only a dream. Like the absolutes and the in-betweens are out of line, sometimes intertwined behind a mind in lies and fights that only fools are still trying to fight. Flashes of doubt that grow into rage, blocked out the truth that keep your dreams at bay. Don't stand there waiting for the time to come. Come on, catch me, we got miles to run. We are alive, skin and leaving these bones. Fire in the wind, we're burning out of control. We are the children